welcome back to the show. This is Phil Vischer. You're listening to or watching the Phil Vischer podcast. I am here with Skye Jitani.
Hello.
Hi, Skye. And Christian Taylor.
Hi, Phil.
Hi, Christian. You look much prettier than Skye.
I know. It's because I am.
You're like way prettier.
Thanks.
That's a good thing.
I gotta say.
He just got back from India, so he's a little, like
I've
discombobulated.
been back a week.
No, you just got back.
Well, as far as we're concerned.
You came from the airport.
Right.
Here.
Uh-huh.
You came here from the airport.
I'm kind of now finally mentally returned. It's been a
That's good.
slow reentry.
Did they lose your brain in transit? They have to deliver it to your house a few days
well,
later?
I was a few time zones behind.
Yeah, right. Okay. I'm going to sing the theme song.
Sing
if
it.
That's okay. Okay. Hey, it's a podcast. What do you know? Hey, it's a podcast. And we got video. Hey, it's a podcast. So lend an ear. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here. Oh, we'll talk to Skye.
Hi.
Hi, Skye.
He really doesn't like
And
this.
Christian, too.
Hi, Phil.
And we've got a guest. His name is Aaron. He's here for you.
Woohoo!
Hi, Aaron.
Hello.
Hey, it's a podcast, so lend an ear. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here.
Aaron, does that hurt your ears?
It's
As
glorious.
a real musician.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Okay. Christian has news.
I do have news. So all of you people out there
Yeah.
who have been praying for me and my house, I just found out this is like hot off the presses. An hour ago, our house sale was approved. So
Yay!
my 50th birthday is tomorrow.
Yay!
I have survived this long. This is probably the best present I could ever get because I really don't want to turn that number tomorrow.
Happy birthday.
And be
Thank you.
homeless.
And be homeless.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Homeless at 50 doesn't feel good.
It doesn't. But you know what?
Yeah.
Now that I have this exciting thing happening that I've been waiting for 9 months,
Yeah.
it makes that a less bitter pill to take. It's like a spoonful of sugar.
Right, to
with
help your
that-
medicine go down.
Yeah, to help that medicine.
The whole process of buying and selling homes it was the worst. 2 years ago we went through this, year and a half ago.
Yeah,
It's miserable.
it is
So I
miserable.
feel your pain. I'm glad it's a happy ending though.
Well, it's not quite over. We hope to
Oh,
close
no,
in 2
it's
weeks.
all over.
But the fact that we've been approved and we have a closing,
Yeah.
time, it's
Yeah.
just we're
Yes.
we're all there.
That is awesome.
Happy holidays
Thanks.
Yeah,
to one and all.
So I've been adapting
Christmas
to
miracle.
being 50 since June.
And-
but now I'm adapting to being a grandparent for 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks.
How's it going?
Yeah, how is it now
Too
2
many
weeks
people
later?
are saying hi, Grandpa Phil, like at church, and like when I was in my last veggie recording session, they all thought that was just hilarious to call me Grandpa Phil.
And now it's like Grandpa Grape. No, who's the
Grape.
grape?
Pog great.
Pog grape.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is how I feel on the inside now.
You have to just talk like that all the
I'm
time.
a 50-year-old grandfather. I can barely get out of bed in the morning. I'm not regular. I gotta eat more prunes. Skye has news.
You do?
Not
Big,
really.
big news. Big, exciting news from Skye Jitani.
Bust it out, buddy.
No.
But we want to hear about your trip. You went to India
I
for
did.
a week.
I did.
So you could work in a call center? What were you doing in India?
Kinda.
Doing tech support?
I went to help lead a spiritual retreat for about 20 Christian Indian CEOs and business executives.
Just 20?
Yeah, it was a
Do you
small.
know how many people are in India?
Yeah.
And all they could come up with was 20?
No, but these were carefully selected, a curated group
Oh, okay.
of
Okay.
business leaders.
Influencers.
Yeah, they're CEOs and VPs of large multinational corporations who head up India, and it was really great. It was a great group of people. It
Who
was
put that together?
It's called Asian Access, which is a ministry that's been in Asia for a long time. They mostly do these retreats with pastors, but they've started recently a marketplace version of it for business leaders, and they've done a few in Korea, and this was the first one in India. And they take this group, and they commit to meeting together for 2 years, 8 weekends over 2 years, and they kind of
Okay.
and so this was the first weekend. They were
So you had them for a weekend,
Yeah.
but you stayed there for a week.
well, it takes 2 days to get there.
Oh, yeah.
And then I spent 2 days with family.
Yeah.
And it was 3 days. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday with the retreat. And then I left on Monday. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it takes 2 days to come back.
Yeah, but because of the time zones, you leave Monday morning,
Yeah,
you get back here by Monday
get back
night.
a week before you left. That's the cool part. And then you can do the work that you missed in the week you were gone because you're back a week earlier.
Wouldn't that be nice if that
That
really
would be
did
cool.
happen?
And you could just keep looping around the world and finding new days to catch up
That'd
on
be
your
awesome.
stuff. So, okay, how much downtime did you have?
Not. I mean, on the flights, I had downtime. And then
Did you do anything interesting
I
or
don't really want to
cultural
hear what
in
you did on
India?
the
No, I
flights.
mean, the one funny thing is one of my cousins who I grew up with here in Chicago, who now lives in California, happened to be in Mumbai when I was there. So we got to connect, and we went shopping, and I saw my aunt. But I didn't do anything. I mean, cultural. I go there every couple of years. It isn't like I've never been there.
Do you speak
Hindi?
Hindi
No.
when you go there?
What?
Everyone speaks English.
Yeah. What was the highlight? What were the 2 highlights?
Do you know what they are?
No. What were the 3 highlights?
So I think one of the highlights was getting to know some of these business leaders.
Yeah.
And hearing their struggles as business leaders, but then as Christians in that culture. And one thing you realize is the dualism that we see a lot in the American church of categorizing certain things as sacred and a whole lot of other things as secular or unimportant.
Worthless.
That's accentuated even more in India,
Really?
in the Christian church in India. So a lot of these business leaders feel as if, or have communicated to them indirectly, that what they're doing really doesn't matter because they're not, quote unquote, in ministry. So to see that in a different context, because I've done a lot of work on faith and work issues here in the United States, but to see it overseas and recognize how needed it is there was really good. That was really interesting.
Isn't that a reflection of the Indian culture? Because isn't in the Indian culture in general very divided that way? There's these secular things and then these sacred
actually,
things.
I would actually argue the opposite.
You would?
Yeah.
Tell me why.
I would say that an awful lot of at least Hindu culture integrates them more. So you walk down the street in India and you see Hindu idols and gods and images in every store, every restaurant, every taxi cab, around every tree. It's everywhere. And it's in Christianity that we've really separated things a lot more to say church is sacred, business is not. And so it's interesting that they've adapted a very Western form of Christianity that isolates them and separates them into sacred and secular. I mean, I'm not saying that's completely integrated in Hinduism, but in the West, we tend to segregate life more than in the East.
Were the people you met with more encouraged at the end than at the
Yes, they
beginning?
were. We had a great connection, and I made some new friends, and hope to stay in contact with them. I think they were very encouraged by that, and it wasn't just me. There was another guy, a friend of mine named Daniel, who was helping to lead. He's a business guy from California, and he was talking about how he's led his business as a Christian. So he was giving them that side of it, and I was kind of doing the biblical and theological teaching. But I think they came away really encouraged and inspired and challenged. And then the nice thing about the way Asian Access does it is these guys really spend a lot of time connecting with one another because they didn't know each other before this either.
Yeah.
And to know that there are other Indians who are believers who are in very influential business roles in the country and they can stay in contact with each other was very encouraging for them.
How public do Indian Christians make their faith? Do they feel like they need to keep it hidden or more secretive, or can they be?
These guys are from all over the country, but we held the conference in Chennai, which is in southern India, which is I think it's around 10% of the population in southern India is Christian, whereas in northern India, it's probably less than 1%. So if you're a Christian in South India, it's not that unusual. You know, it's not that abnormal a thing. But even there, some of these guys are wrestling with, if they own the business and it's explicitly developed in a Christian ethos, even there's a struggle between, well, if I have employees who are not Christian, how Christian can my business be? And so a lot of things that we talk about in the American context, they're struggling with there as well.
And are they worried about legal implications or just personal, what's proper?
We didn't really talk about the legal implications, but I think they don't want to alienate their employees. They also don't want to alienate business partners or clients that may take umbrage with their identity. But we went to one guy's office there in Chennai. It was a big, I think 500 employees in this huge, very modern office complex. And, they begin every day at this office with Bible reading and prayer. But he said a significant number of employees are not Christian, and he doesn't require them to participate, but those who want to can. And so, anyway, it's fascinating that we truly are in a global world, a global economy, a global culture, and the very same struggles that we see in the church here and in business here, you see there. I mean, they're slightly different in context, but they're not that different.
Is there a separation in the Hindu businesses, right? Do they integrate their faith in their business like we're talking about? Or is it so integrated? Is it so integrated that You don't even notice it.
I'm not sure how to answer that. I can just tell you from experience, you walk into an awful lot of stores or restaurants, you get into a taxi cab in India, and you are going to see images of Hindu gods just somewhere. There's a Ganesh on the dashboard. There's, incense burning somewhere in the front of a restaurant, whatever. It's just there, and it's just expected. That's just India. There isn't you keep that private.
But there's no like guiding principles or, since I am a Hindu, my faith's important to me. I'm going to structure my business like this. So
a lot of Hinduism, as it's popularly practiced, is just raw superstition.
There is no, when you dive into it, there is no official Hinduism.
Because there's so many different gods?
It's a collection of, it's more of a British construct.
Yeah.
The name came from the British. The Hinduism, it was actually just one segment. It's kind of like Native Americans. They all have many varied religious beliefs, but then colonists come over and say, you all practice Native Americanism. And they say, we do?
Yeah.
That's the same thing with Hinduism.
It's a very complicated, messy...
That's why you can have a million gods and be a Hindu, and you can be an atheist and be a Hindu.
And you got to remember, there's Hinduism, but then there's Sikhism, and then there's Islam, and then there's Sufi Islam, and there's Christianity, and all these things are mushed together in India. And so you walk down the street, and you'll see a shrine built around a tree. And on that shrine, will have all these various Hindu gods, and there'll be Muhammad, and there'll be Jesus, and there'll be Moses, and it's all there. It's just all mingled together. So you go to one Hindu family, and they're actually more influenced by some Sikh theology and tradition and religion. You go to another, and it's much more influenced by Islam, and it's just a weird amalgam of stuff. So
it's a melting pot.
It is a melting pot, yeah. And a lot of it's superstition, whereas we're going to have this idol. We're going to have Ganesh on the I remember going into one taxi cab years ago. If you don't know, Ganesh is a Hindu
elephant?
It's a Hindu god with an elephant head.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of them, and he brings good fortune and good luck. So a lot of them have it on their dashboard.
It has a very long memory.
Because you're driving in India, it's pretty much
very
luck.
risky.
It's very risky, right? So good luck, put them on the dashboard, right?
Yeah.
And I went into one taxi cab, and I was caught off guard because my kids were sitting in the back with Amanda, and I was sitting in the front, tiny little cab. And on the dashboard, instead of Ganesh, it was Dumbo. It was a Dumbo, a Disney Dumbo figure, and I caught. I mean, it's an elephant. You don't think twice. Then I look carefully, and it's like there's a Dumbo, and I asked the cab driver. I said, "Is it Dumbo instead of Ganesh?" And he just smiled and bobbled his head, like he didn't care. Like he could tell he wasn't very religious, so he was mocking it by putting
fun
a Dumbo up there.
Does it operate then almost as no religion really? Like it's almost a secular thing with all these religious icons
No, it's
all
very
around?
it's very traditionally religious, which is fear driven and a desire for control. I want my business to prosper. I'm going to honor these gods. I'm going to make sacrifices. I'm going to give money. I'm going to burn incense because I want.
Well, it's like burying a statue of a saint upside down in your yard so your house will sell.
Right.
That happens?
Yeah, in the U.S.
Isn't that what you did?
No, I did not do
Which
that.
saint is it?
Christopher?
I don't remember.
That really happens?
Yeah.
But it has to be upside down or your house won't sell.
I've never heard that.
We humans are prone to coming up with rules to try to control things.
It's like baseball.
Sky wrote a
Yes,
book
it
about
is.
it.
It's just like baseball. It's exactly the same thing. It's that superstition. I'm going to wear my lucky socks. I'm going to the Billy Goat, whatever. It's that kind of. It's just pervasive in human culture.
Okay, low light of the trip. Besides your digestive system, which apparently had some struggles.
Well, that was more of a struggle when I came home.
Okay.
Low light. I got delayed in Chennai at the airport for
how long? How long?
Not that long.
Where's Chennai?
Oh, come on.
Chennai's in southeast India along the coast. But low light on my flight from Chennai to London, which was 14 hours, something like that.
Okay.
There was this guy 2 seats over from me who was the loudest snorer I have ever heard.
Really?
Wow.
In my life. And I was harboring all kinds of judgments and anger, and you're tired and frustrated. And you're not in business class. I'm not lying flat. I'm trying to sleep and everything. And then later in the flight, I see him reading his Bible. And I thought,
yeah.
But
So have you seen those new
I hope you
sleeping
repented.
I did.
those sleeping tools that they're making? where
Drugs?
Instead of
Isn't
the
that Jack
pillow,
Daniels?
instead of the pillow around your neck,
Yeah.
it's one that sits in the chair in front of you,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you just
On the
sleep like
tray.
that.
Yeah.
No, I've got the best travel pillow.
Okay. What is it?
It's called the J.
It's called Amanda.
No, she didn't go with me.
Oh.
the J pillow.
The J pillow.
I've
Have you
seen
seen
that. Does
that?
it really work?
It really works.
I thought it was
What?
like a gimmick.
What
No,
is
it
it?
works.
What's a J pillow?
It's hard to.
It's shaped like a J.
It's like a T, actually.
Isn't it- well, yeah, it goes around your neck, but then there's this other piece that goes underneath your chin.
Yeah.
So if you lean forward, you can. It's kind of
Okay.
bulky.
Okay.
But
Is it
actually,
inflatable?
No, it's not inflatable.
No, not inflatable. So
But
you just have to
it
carry
actually works really well. So that's my plug. Go get the J pillow. I make no money off of this. I promise.
Okay. All right.
Can we mention what he hopes to make money off of one day?
Yes.
What am I mentioning?
Sky is joining the circus. What
Yes.
are we mentioning?
Well, the movie proposal podcast.
Oh, there's no money in
there's
that.
No money.
I'm
There's
teasing.
no money in
I
any
was
of
being
this.
None of this.
facetious.
He's Sky has launched a new podcast called The Movie Proposal with his friend and my friend
And my friend.
Christian's, all of our friend Josh Lindsay, and they talk about movies every so often.
Yeah, we're trying to go for twice a month.
It might be every other week.
Yeah,
and it's now available on iTunes and on YouTube. Movie Proposal.
Yeah,
And it
it's-
seems to be well loved already.
we'll see. We'll see. It's structured around a wedding. Every episode, something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue.
Yeah.
And that's
And you came up with this because you were at an Indian wedding?
no, they don't do this in India.
And is it Christian in some way,
Well,
shape, or form? What's the
we're
point?
Christians.
What's the point of it,
we
Scott?
Does it have to be explicitly Christian?
Yes. Is there an elephant on your dashboard, so to speak?
So to speak.
So to speak.
Well, I guess there is in that
That you are
God
a
is
Christian?
present in our, the way we view movies, but it isn't like every
Okay.
movie we talk about the Christian angle. If there's an appropriate Christian angle, we'll talk. Like we just
Okay.
recorded one earlier today about Moana,
Yeah.
a new Disney.
What's that?
This
Oh,
new Disney
Moana.
movie. I don't think we talked about God as it relates.
So why
to
should I
Moana.
listen?
Because we're awesome. Josh went to film school.
Yeah.
I went to another school,
Yeah, huh?
and we watched
And you
movies.
like to talk to each
With
other.
credentials like that, it's hard to
That's
say no
it.
to.
That's
Okay,
it.
so go check it out.
Well, what
The
I do
Movie
like
Proposal.
is the old things that you bring back
Mm-hmm.
because there's a bunch of movies I hadn't even seen or heard about. So I
you
think
go.
that's a
Yeah.
good idea.
Yeah, we had Josh on the podcast last week talking about movies and setting up the new podcast. So if you didn't listen to that, go back to listen to that because we talked about we just asked him questions like what are the movies, the 3 or 4 movies. He came up with 6, I think.
He did?
That impacted you spiritually or showed you that you can have spiritual impact through a movie.
But didn't he say Raiders of the
stuff.
Lost Ark?
I know that's a movie he mentioned. I don't remember if that was in that list.
Yes, it was in that list.
Was
and
that
then
in his
you,
list?
yeah, he had a
Okay.
very spiritual experience watching
yeah.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. But
Raiders of
Chariots
the
of
Lark.
Fire was his
Yeah, Chariots
of
first
Fire,
one,
yeah.
and mine actually.
Yeah, we don't have to go through the whole list,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
So
Go
you can
back
go
and
listen to
listen.
it.
Yeah.
And
Go
it's
listen to it.
called The Movie Proposal, and the first one is out already.
Yes.
First couple should be up.
First
there.
couple,
We
maybe.
started this months ago.
Months ago. But it was only for Patreon subscribers, and now it's for everyone.
So for those of you who are Patreon subscribers, well done. You guys made
Yeah,
that possible.
you sustained
and now
it.
it goes out to the world.
With your generosity.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we have a guest. Do we still have a guest?
Is he
or
still there?
We do.
Oh, he's still there.
Aaron, hi.
Although
Hi.
on one of our monitors, he froze up. Oh, well. But on the other monitor, he's still working. So we'll look at that monitor.
It is cold out.
Aaron Niequist. I'm saying that right, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Aaron Niequist is a worship leader, songwriter, and pastor in the Chicago area. He led worship at Mars Hill Church, Grand Rapids. That would be Rob Bell's church.
Formerly.
Yes, formerly Rob
Yeah.
Bell's church. Correct. Were you there when Rob was there?
Yep. 03, about 03 to 07.
All righty. Then Willow Creek Church. Yes, we're familiar with that one. And then he's created a new liturgy. And that's something that you would trademark because it's capitalized. A new liturgy, capitalized. We'll ask him what that is. I'll tell you what it is. It's a collection of modern liturgical worship recordings.
Which is fantastic. I
Is
have
it?
Yes, it
I've
is.
actually used it. I met it on your Redeeming Work Tour.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Okay. Currently, Aaron's creating a discipleship-focused, formational, ecumenical, practice-based community at Willow Creek called The Practice.
Not to be confused with the
Is John Grisham novel?
with the drama.
Sounds like
TV
a John
drama.
Grisham.
There is a movie. There's
a television show and a John Grisham movie.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to have to unpack that. Aaron, so you started, have you always been a worship leader? Was that just what you wanted to be forever?
Yeah, in college, I was a music and theory and composition major.
Okay.
And so I wanted to be a songwriter, and I guess ultimately, tour the world as a rock star or something like that.
Sure.
But in college, whenever I would lead worship, I was like, man, something moves in me, something ends up moving in others. And so it felt kind of like a calling. And so right out of college, joined up with a high school ministry at Willow as their worship leader, and did that for 5 years before meeting Rob and moving to Grand Rapids. So
wow,
yeah.
Cool. And then you how long were you at Mars?
About 5 years.
Okay.
Yep.
And then came back to Willow?
And then came back in 2009 and was a part of the weekend service, led worship every other weekend. And those were very good and very tumultuous times. Okay. And then the last 3 years or so has been at the practice, and that has been just a ball.
Okay.
So you were a boomerang kid until you grew up and got your own job, right? Moved out of your parents' basement.
I think so. I don't know what a boomerang kid is.
What's a boomerang kid?
It means
it's an Australian Aboriginal child.
Oh, okay. Yes, I was born in Australia.
Did you lead worship with a didgeridoo?
I thought a boomerang kid is when you break up and then you get back together and have a kid.
No, it's a boomerang that comes back home. You leave the house and you come back
home.
I thought that was failure to launch.
Same.
Well, that's not as catchy.
It's not as catchy.
Yeah,
as boomerang kid.
I think because it implies judgment and shame. I like failure to launch.
Okay, so Aaron has written some stuff. He also blogs. He's written some stuff that's kind of self-critical of, okay, how do we do worship? What is worship supposed to be? I like it that you're thinking about this stuff, because a lot of us, we just go through the motions. We just do what everyone else is doing. So a couple of pieces he wrote. One is entitled, Should Worship Only Be About God and Me? And he starts out by saying, it recently occurred to me that 95% of modern worship music is about God or about me. We largely sing about who God is, what God has done for me, and what I'm going to do for God. And the problem is?
Well, those two are great. I think those are really important things to pray and sing about, but it
God and me
completely takes us out of our actual context, which is the world, each other. There's no sense of we're in this together as a church. Isn't that the goal
of worship, is to transcend the world and be raised to a higher plane, so we don't have to be mucked down with the dirtiness of our world? That's
what a lot of churches seem to be for. But we're, as we're trying to explore what it means to be, with what Sky's talking about, it to join God and what God is doing in the world. And I just realized a lot of the worship I was leading was actually malforming people for mission. Is malform a word?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I was actually almost distracting. No, don't look at the world. Don't look at just look at you and God.
Jesus. It's all about Jesus.
Yeah, that is not the invitation of Christ. So yeah, we're trying to explore how to expand that a little bit.
Okay. You say, we come together each Sunday and sing individualistic songs to our personal God. We all stand facing the same way rather than toward each other.
Now, that would be kind of weird if you stood at each other and looked at each other face to face.
Sing to your neighbor. Sing to your corner.
Whoa.
It'd be like a big square dance.
Wait, back up. When you look at the way, I'm sure Aaron is very well aware of this, you go back to the architecture of old cathedrals.
Yeah.
And they were designed in the shape of a cross.
Yeah.
And the congregation actually faced one another.
Yeah, but from a safe distance.
Yeah, but I still would be looking into people's eyes while I'm singing.
You're not 6 inches away like
you wouldn't get spit on or anything.
Like it's some kind of, Disney High School musical. But
you're not all the audience facing the platform.
Exactly.
Okay. You got anything to add to that, Aaron?
No, well, the practice, we sit in the round, and the Eucharist table is in the center, and we sing and pray and learn all facing each other. And I mean, to your point, it's pretty awkward sometimes. I mean, it's not the usual, what we're all used to is more of an auditorium, kind of me and God, darken the lights setting.
Right.
And this is a lot more communal. It's a lot more intimate. I had a friend who said, whenever I come to the practice, I realized that going to the church I'm a part of doesn't require anything of me. But when I walk in and sit here, it requires so much, which is probably good and bad in ways, but it's definitely trying to do a different thing.
Aaron, when you were at Mars Hill, they worshipped in the round there. I spoke there a couple times. It was the first time I've ever spoken in the round. It's awkward knowing that at least half the people here are looking at your butt at any moment.
Oh, when you're up in front, not if you're sitting in the round.
No, when you're speaking.
Have you ever worshipped in the buff? It's another...
All right.
Singing in the shower
going off the rails.
Yeah, it's a different experimental form.
Did you take that experience from Mars Hill and implement that at the practice, or did the idea come from somewhere else?
Well, both. Leading worship at Mars changed me in a lot of ways. And going back to a real stage-centric at the front started to feel really strange. At Mars, we started to realize that we, the worship band, are not the lead worshipers, that we do our thing and we invite you to follow us, but we're the accompanists. So the community are the lead instruments and we're just trying to accompany them.
Yeah.
And so I remember, doing that for 5 years and then coming back to some tall stages and those kinds of things and realizing, oh my gosh, the room is set up to teach the opposite thing of what I'm trying to do, which is say, you're the main instrument. Well, the lights are on me. I'm 5 feet in the air. It might feel like it was.
Right, so I'm on the Jumbotron, you're not.
Yeah, that's right. My face is a story tall, but it's about you. It's kind of crazy.
And I like what you said in one of the articles that I read. You gave some steps for how to begin changing worship, I think. And one of them was to let the worship team basically saying, stand down almost and let the people sing and hear each other. And I can remember my husband, when he went to Promise Keepers once a long time ago, he said, there was nothing I've ever experienced like an entire stadium full, of men singing Amazing Grace. Or, he said it's a powerful thing. And I do think hearing other people worship is pretty powerful.
Okay, so you say there aren't just two things. It's not just about focusing on God and focusing on me. You have a list of 4 things. You have 2 more.
Yeah.
Right?
It's the fact that we're doing this together. It's the communal aspect.
Yeah.
There's a reason we come to one place together. Because God is trying to form a people, not just a bunch of individuals. And so there's a communal aspect. And frankly, that's probably the one that I feel the weakest at as a worship leader. Because it's hard, a lot of the turn to your neighbor and I want to leave the room.
Yeah.
But there is something so important about naming that we're doing this together, and that matters.
Does it feel those moments at church always? Partly because I'm an introvert. They it's just weird. But doesn't it feel somewhat inauthentic when? Back in the day, you lived in a town, you all knew one another, and you gathered for worship on Sunday.
Wait, what day would this be?
Whatever
is this
day
when America was
when
great?
You grew up in Ottumwa, Iowa.
I'm saying in traditional, traditional Christian culture.
What year?
I don't know.
Okay, so
I'm just saying.
Look, that's the way it was for me in the 70s. I'm going to pick a year.
Okay.
When you live together, you work together, you go to school together, you worship together, you're a community together. When you turn, you go, oh, that's Christian, and I've just done life all week with Christian, and we're now a community, we're worshiping together. Is it just harder to get that today when everyone's driving 30 minutes to go to church and you're with a bunch of people you barely know?
We work at different places,
yeah,
we
you
go
just
to different
can't
schools.
fabricate that communal identity.
But you can't not try.
How do we do it, Aaron? How do we do it? Do we try or do we just give up?
Well, on one hand, I would say that every big church is trying to feel like a living room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And every small church, many small churches are trying to replicate the stadium thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there is something about who are we, what do we do well, and how do we embrace that? But also to name who we are is limited. And so we're trying to get as wide as possible. Maybe I'll say this. I was trying to explain to my wife, this is a little bit of a jump, but why I was trying to move beyond just the kind of modern worship thing, trying to learn from the liturgies and different traditions. And I was trying to explain it to her. And she said, it sounds like you just want to serve a well-balanced meal every week.
Oh.
And I remember saying, that's exactly what it is. So in this conversation, over the course of a month, do we serve a well-balanced meal of worship that helps us honor God, worship that helps us engage with ourselves, worship that helps us to connect with the church, the Big C church, and then worship that sensitizes us and propels us into the world.
Right.
That would probably be can't do everything every week.
Right.
But
right.
I think you ought to just worship 2 square dances, because it sounds like to me like the Virginia reel is kind of what you're looking for, you know?
I don't think that's a well-rounded meal.
No, but you're touching, you're looking,
You're swinging your
and
partner.
Okay.
You're singing together, and
Aaron,
kind of covers it.
the healthy, well-rounded meal analogy for worship is great, except in America we like fast food.
Well, we like what we like.
And we like what we like.
Yeah, I don't want to have to eat things that aren't my favorite 3 out of 4 weeks.
And I want portions that are large enough to feed a horse.
As big as my head. What do you say about that,
He's
Aaron?
speechless now.
No,
He's speechless.
I think you're exactly right. And are we allowed to get political on the podcast, or should we?
That never happens.
We are trying to stay away from that.
I'm not going to jump in, but you can say whatever you want. Okay, go.
I mean, those dynamics have got us exactly where we are. Maybe can I just say that?
That's not political.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're going to have to clarify.
Can you be more offensively explicit?
No, I mean, I'm not trying to be, but we have not been trying to form people into Christ-likeness as much as give them the spiritual meals that they want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And as a result, we have not been formed into Christ-likeness.
Well, what you're articulating, though, is the reality of trying to sustain religious institutions in a consumer culture. Mm-hmm. Because in a consumer culture, the consumer is king. Therefore, you give people what they want in order to get them to engage. And if you continually give people what they want, well, they're not going to be formed in the Christ-likeness, because that's not what naturally most people want.
Right. Well, how do you, okay, because you've been at big churches that want to be safe places for people that aren't used to church, right?
Yeah.
That's really the premise of Willow and that style of movement is a safe place for a dangerous message. So one of the things that
Is that their tagline or something?
No, but that's something that they have said quite a bit, at least when I've been there. So one of the problems is that then you try to eliminate things that are off-putting, but many of the things that create formation require some form of tension or discomfort and would be considered off-putting. So in your experience, is there a way to work in a more seeker-sensitive, come just as you are model, but guide people into a less comfortable ultimate destination? Or is it really either or, pick one?
That is a spectacular question.
Thank you.
Okay, can I talk a little general rather than implicating any?
Yeah.
Of course. Okay. But what we really want you to do is call out people, because that really makes a good podcast.
I have lots of friends at many very big churches, and I speak at them all the time.
And maybe we can start there. The people that are involved with creating and leading these places are spectacular people. I've yet to meet some charlatan, some.
Right.
Well, have you turned on your television? Lately?
Yeah. In real life, it's not like those televangelists. It's legitimate, wonderful people who are trying to help the world. So I would say if the seeker kind of church, the on-ramp, is an on-ramp to become a disciple for the sake of the world, then I honestly think that first step, a little more open, seeker-sensitive, whatever you want to say, is one of the most profound gifts that we can give to the world. I mean, some of my closest friends actually got saved because they came to Willow at a time of crisis and heard a message they've never heard. Now, every single one of them have had to move into some deeper streams than just continuing to attend on a weekend service.
It's like milk versus steak.
Yeah, I think that's true.
But how do you?
I think the danger is
the question.
The danger is
It's just a different part of the cow.
Sorry, Aaron.
Sorry, I missed that one.
Yeah, it was
the
Sky.
danger is if the church sees itself as an invitation to get your sins taken care of and become a Christian, then anything else is an add-on. So for me, it's all about what is the good news we're inviting people to. So I think a seeker church could preach the good news of losing your life to find it, of joining God and what God is doing to redeem and restore all things. And if that's the case, it is such a profound gift to the world because we need so much more grace.
Right.
But if a church is just preaching conversion, then discipleship's an add-on, mission's an add-on, community's an add-on. I don't think that ultimately
and
works.
do you have to be willing to let people leave if they don't want to go deeper? Because that's
absolutely.
That's really
Yes.
hard to do.
Yeah. We've been saying, people say, who's like your target audience at the practice?
Yeah.
And for a while I was saying people who are desperate. If you don't need it, you don't want to come and sit for 5 minutes in silence as these things, this is hard work and it's scary and God starts doing some deep things in. But if you are desperate, if you're hungry, then it's life,
When you started the practice, I'm trying to recall, you had an analogy, you compared it to, was it a gymnasium?
Yeah. Side note,
unpack that.
The idea for the practice started at Coffee with Sky, like
That is
4
true.
years ago or something, 5 years ago maybe.
Wow.
We were sitting there and we were kind of bemoaning the state of the church. And finally,
I've never known Sky to
he's
do
like-
that.
I don't bemoan anything.
That's
I don't
not
know what he's
like
talking about.
He's no bemoaner.
So anyways, that's where some of the I think he said to me, what are you going to do about it? I go, I don't know. What are you going to do about it? And so we just started talking about the concrete. Anyways.
So he did something about it.
Oh, Aaron wins.
But one of the things that I've become really convinced about is that at least the faith streams that I was brought up in were all about beliefs. And the goal was to have correct beliefs. And so the teaching was to make sure people had right beliefs.
Right.
And
this
what we're trying to do at
bad?
the practice is move it from church as classroom, come learn things that change your mind, to gymnasium. Come learn a new invitation and then concrete things that we can do together. And then we'll go out in the world and continue to do them. So from classroom to gymnasium.
Okay. And what?
Yeah.
Okay. Your fourth thing here that you want to ask yourself is: did the worship open our hearts and lives to those outside of our tribe? Turning our attention outside. How do you do that in worship? I mean, that's that's when you play a video from World Relief, right? I mean, what does that look like? I don't know any psalms that I can think of that we sing that are let's go feed the poor.
Yeah, and I think that is because we haven't been formed to do that. We haven't got there yet. I hope in 20 years from now, there's a ton of songs and prayers and readings. Two specifics. One is one part of our liturgy is just learning from the big traditions. We always do a confession, silence, and an assurance. So every Sunday we name our sin. We usually pray one of the common prayers, have some silence to personalize it, and then someone will read an assurance. And about a year ago, we said we want to add one more movement to that. We want to always pray for one enemy. And so we'd confess our sin, we'd receive the assurance of grace, and then we'd say, all right, God, now I lift before you so-and-so. And sometimes we'd encourage people to, imagine, is there a world leader, Putin or something like that, and pray, like Jesus said, that God would bless them. And then sometimes it's, is there someone in your life who has become. And some of the heart is Jesus commanded it. And the goal is to not believe that praying for our enemies is true, but the goal is to pray for our enemies. So we want to practice use words, but also, the thought is if we do that 52 times in a year, where we'll hold before God someone that we're angry with or an enemy and pray that God would bless them, that's going to change us.
Yeah.
That is going to form our hearts in a new way.
Yeah.
So one other concrete thing, this August, Michael Rudzina came in. He's part of a pastor at Trinity Grace, and he taught on disgust and talked sociologically about it and all these, but theologically, what does our disgust tell us about what's going on in our hearts?
And this was in August of 2016. I can't imagine why that was his topic.
Yes. So the time of practice, what we do is the lecture portion is only 15 minutes, and then the practice time is 15 to 20 minutes. And so he did the lecture, and then he said, all right, our practice tonight is Visio Divina, look up on the screen, and we put up a side-by-side Trump and Hillary picture. and he led us through a meditation. What disgust? Where does it rise up? Why? Led us into some space. And he said, all right, second question. He put up a picture of Trump and Hillary when they were about 5 years old. I don't know if you've seen those pictures floating around.
No.
And led us on a meditation. All right, look into his little eyes. Look at her, and led us in this. And then the final picture was the original two back up. And I mean, it was uncomfortable. And he was encouraging us to not focus on the one we're for, focus on the one that we feel against. And it messed with us. But I would like to think it opened up some space for their humanity to come. Probably didn't change positions, and that's fine. But I hope
ruin the way you look at 5-year-olds forever.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, Aaron, you really just kind of threw a real curveball at me, because I try to pray the Lord's Prayer each morning, and when it gets to the part where it's, forgive my sins as I have forgiven others, I'm always really mindful, well, I better forgive others if I really want him to forgive me. And so I start going through the places where I feel wounded or need to give forgiveness. But I haven't thought about actually praying that those people will be blessed. That's a different thing altogether.
Absolutely. We did another one with Trump and Hillary. Obviously, this has been a big one, where it said, don't focus on the one you're for, focus on the one you're against. First, we're going to pray for their marriage. We spent some time praying that God would bless their marriage. Now let's pray for their kids. I mean, can you imagine being Chelsea or being one of the Trump kids? So we're going to pray that God would bless them. And then it was hard. It wasn't a fun night. Okay, but I hope it formed us.
So doing this sort of thing, how are you seeing it affect people?
It is one of those deep from the inside out things. I feel like someone asked maybe 2 years ago, how do you measure success?
Yeah.
And one of the first things I said is, if you've been a part of this community for a long time, success would mean you are more likely to forgive once you've been wronged. And so I think we're even seeing some of the openness to the other, especially those who we disagree with. But again, I'm not trying to sell it. Now we run around hugging people. Like it is hard work, but in these divided times, it feels like real peacemaking. By the way, speaking of peacemaking, this fall, we did 9 weeks on the Beatitudes. We said, we're just going to immerse ourselves in this great text. And I had never thought about it. I'm sure Sky has written an article about this at some point, but I never thought that peacemaking is the beatitude right before being persecuted for Christ.
Wow.
And we started wrestling with not the peacekeeper, like where you don't offend anybody, or a peacemaker. If you are, you will be persecuted. Because odds are both sides will hate you. Yeah. So anyways,
Wow. Okay. If you're not the worship pastor or the senior pastor, how can you bring some of this thinking into your own community? Got any advice for people that don't have the reins of power?
Yeah. I would say two things about that. one is hopeful because anyone can do it, and the other one is a little less hopeful. The hopeful one is myself and a lot of my worship leader friends have spent a lot of time smuggling things into church services. And you really can do that. Like you don't have to upend everything. I think I made that mistake at Willow, trying to do too much too quickly.
Yeah.
But I had one friend for a while, we were saying, excuse me, what if you tried to add one non-singing worship thing each Sunday? Just one moment. You don't have to write a liturgy. And what if you do one prayer for our enemies just once a quarter? Or I think we can do a lot more in small bites than we think. On the other side, I would say that
That was good.
one of my big learnings at Willow was that whoever asks the big question ultimately decides the final answer.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, like if the question for a worship leader is, how do we get the room fired up in the first 30 minutes of the service?
Yeah.
The answer is probably not pray for your enemies. So
You never know.
So,
Yeah.
well, there is a tension there. I think past worship leaders can do more than they think in the daily ways, but ultimately the container decides a lot more.
But I have one thing to say.
Yeah. Yeah. What's that?
So you asked what his advice was for people that aren't worship leaders
Yeah.
or heads of
Yeah.
churches, right?
Yeah.
But number one, I think it starts with us. You know, we
Yeah.
have to start thinking in our own personal meditation and our own spiritual development, how to change that internally with the way we relate with God. And then we do have some sort of influence over the people that we live with.
Right.
Or, you know, for sure, if we're parents, you know, we have that over our children.
And you should also at the same time, you should have a relationship with your pastor
Yeah.
where you can make suggestions.
Sure.
Say, what if we tried something like this? You know, and if it's impossible for you to have a relationship with your spiritual leaders, you know, then you might want to say, well, am I at the right church? Because
Right.
you need more community.
And volunteering to get involved is another way, I would think.
So many ways.
Even in large churches where the structures probably won't allow you to have a direct relationship with your pastors.
What the parking lot is for. You wait in the parking lot.
Yeah, so you're going to like stalk your pastor?
Yeah. Hi.
You go in during his business hours.
Hi, I'm one cranky sheep.
Most even large churches have smaller group settings, whether it's classes
Right.
or home groups or things like that, where an awful lot of spiritual formation is more possible. And that can be an environment where a lot of these things are actually practiced. If you have a small group that meets weekly or monthly, it's a perfect environment to do some of the things that Aaron's describing. You know, let's pray
Right.
for our enemies. Let's
Right.
talk about disgust. Let's deal with our anger. That's highly unlikely to be processed effectively in a group of thousands of people, although there's ways that can be done.
But it's so much more comfortable to have my faith be about me and God.
Well, yeah, because then you don't have to change.
Well, that's because you're an introvert and don't like people.
I like some people.
I think what Aaron has done is fantastic, not just because the particulars of the practice are wonderful, but he's doing it within the context of a large church,
Yeah.
which, so many people would run away and do something in a little enclave all by themselves, but he's doing it in this larger context that can influence what's going on and shows that you don't have to completely separate yourself out from existing institutions to
Right.
begin to catalyze new
Is
things.
Aaron still here? Did we lose him?
No, I'm here.
Oh, he's still here.
Hey, Aaron, can I find your liturgy music somewhere?
Yeah, anewliturgy.com. There's 6 of them.
anewliturgy.com. Okay.
anewliturgy.com. They're 30-minute modern liturgical journeys. And we say, like, turn your car into a rolling sanctuary
Okay.
kind of thing.
And then do you
That's
have
fun.
a music for sale anywhere?
You can get all 6 of those liturgies at anewliturgy.com.
Okay.
anewliturgy.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, before I wrap this up, I wanted to say I'm having a sale. I've never had a sale before in my life that I actually did myself, but I have 2 children's books. I don't know if you've ever seen them. 47 Beavers on the Big Blue Sea and Sydney and Norman. They have nothing to do with talking vegetables. And I am offering those for Christmas because they make really good Christmas presents. So if you would like to give my kids' books to your kids or grandkids or nieces or nephews this Christmas, we're putting them on sale for only $9.99 for both of them.
And they are awesome. I just want to put a plug in for Sydney and Norman.
Thank you.
Because I think it was written after Big Idea in this silence time, right?
Yeah,
and there were some struggles in there.
It was actually the first thing I wrote after everything fell apart.
And it's very, in my opinion, there's a lot of humility in that book.
Yeah,
on your part.
I'm one of the characters.
You are, and the other one's your wife. Yeah. And there's just some real self-revelatory, humbling happening.
Well, thanks. And really like 47 Beavers on the Big Blue Sea is just silly.
It is silly.
It has a nice little message.
Who are you in that?
The author.
Oh.
How'd you get that idea?
It's funny. It's funny you should ask. I was writing The Wizard of Oz. No, not The Wizard of Oz. I was writing the Lord of the Bean.
Okay.
And I had a character in Lord of the Bean that was going to walk through a scene singing a random song. And so I needed a random song, and the first thing that popped into my head was this random song about 47 beavers.
That you made up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How does it go?
And the beavers pulled upon the oars, and the beavers rowed away from shore, and the beavers 2 and the beavers 3, 47 beavers on the Big Blue Sea.
Oh.
So anyway, that's how it goes. And we have that. You can actually download the song because we're going to have it available for you because I did a whole musical version of the whole book. And then I thought, well, that is too much fun to just throw away in a VeggieTales video. So I wrote a different song, put it in the VeggieTales video, and took the 47 Beavers song and turned it into a children's book. And then it came out the next year. So anyway, go to philvischer.com and you can check out the deal on both of those books that you could give. And now I'm going to wrap up this episode with a lovely song for my friend Aaron. My ukulele is slightly out of tune, but that just makes it more endearing, doesn't it, Sky?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I knew you'd say that.
More infuriating.
Oh, if you want to hear the speaker at your church, 'cause really you're only a seeker and you don't want to go any deeper. Well, Aaron might want to speak to her or him to straighten you out. Because Aaron's got something he's been talking about, 'cause he thinks success, I'd like to guess, is more about how you live. You're more likely to forgive. So thank you to my friend Aaron, 'cause he's the one who is caring about how we disciple each other through worship with 4 different points that are amazingly important to remember. And I hope you wrote them down today. Okay, thanks, Aaron. We will see you all next time. You can support the podcast by going to patreon.com/Phil Vischer and check out the Movie Proposal podcast with Sky and Josh Lindsay on iTunes or on YouTube, right?
Right.
And we will see you all next week.
Bye, everybody.
See you guys. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks.
Bye.
The Phil Vischer Podcast is produced by Phil Vischer Enterprises and recorded live at Jellyfish Lab Studios. This episode was edited by Jason Rugg and was fact-checked by absolutely no one. For more information, go to philvischer.com.